As we walk through the dell, we can see these abiotic factors being sun, shade, water, soil, and the effect of slope on the plants. Wind is also shown in this area. These abiotic factors all impact plants in very different ways. Sun is important for the photosynthesis of plants. Water is extremely important for plants to function fully in photosynthesis and for the transport of various minerals and nutrients. Soil is important as it provides a growth medium for plants, and wind important for the spreading of spores or in the aid of reproduction. Asexual reproduction is one plant individual making copies of itself. This limits diversity in a species. Sexual reproduction relies on a male and a female plant to produce gametes, which then fuse and form a zygote, which is a combination of both the male and female genes, creating diversity in the species. Sexual reproduction can be seen to be more effective, as you get a greater genetic diversity, enabling plants to continuously adapt to different living conditions. Bryophytes are primitive plants that don't have seeds or vascular systems. Because they lack a mechanism for moving water through their bodies, bryophytes are quite small. They rely on a moist area for reproduction. They use other plants for shade and sometimes grow on things such as trees. Asexual reproduction occurs when a sporophyte releases spores. When a bryophyte spore settles somewhere, it grows into a gametophyte. Gametophytes are green and leafy, but small. A gametophyte's reproductive organs are called the antheridia, the male, and the archegonia, the female. The sporophyte generation is completely dependent on the gametophyte generation. Pteridophytes, also known as ferns, also require water for reproduction. The abiotic and biotic factors that affect them are much like the ones explained previously. Ferns are seedless vascular plants. Instead of seeds, they grow from spores. Spores grow in gametophytes, which in ferns are very tiny and short-lived. The gametophytes release sperm to fertilize eggs, and fertilization happens right on top of the gametophyte. The sporophyte grows into a new fern plant and produces spores to complete the life cycle. The densely packed brown dots are sori, clusters of spores underneath the fern leaves. The fern's sperm are produced in the sperm factory, or antheridium. Meanwhile, the female gametes, eggs, are housed in the archegonia. Gymnosperm means naked seed, a name that reflects the fact that gymnosperms have no fruits to protect their seed. They do not rely on water, and once again, biotic and abiotic factors are very similar to those listed at the beginning of the video. They are believed to be the first vascular plants to inhabit land, appearing in the Triassic period around 208 to 245 million years ago. Conifers and cycads are two of the four main divisions of gymnosperms. They reproduce sexually and rely on both a male and a female to take part in the process. Most conifers are monoecious, meaning that both male and female cones can be found on the same tree. Cycads are opposite to this. They rely mainly on insects for pollination, and animals aid in the dispersal of their large, colorful seeds. The process of sexual reproduction has already been explained. Flowering plants, or angiosperms, are the dominant plants on Earth today, and they can be broken up into two groups, as shown. They quickly became the dominating plants because of some improvements: flowers, which attract pollinators, and fruits, which protect the seed and help with seed dispersal. The pollen carries the genetic material that gets transferred from one plant to another. The pollen is picked up, usually by a flying animal such as a bee or a bird, and gets transferred from one plant to another as the pollinator looks for nectar. Once the pollen arrives, it fertilizes the plant's ovary and a seed begins to develop. Sepals help protect the flower bud before it opens. Petals are the eye-catching part of the flower which attract pollinators. Carpels are made up of ovaries which contain reproductive cells called ovules. On top of the ovary is a stem-like thing called the style, and the stigma, which is sticky and receives the pollen. The stamens are the male reproductive parts and contain pollen. The pollen is contained on the tip of the stamen, which is called the anther. The filament is the stalk that holds the anther up. You should now know some more about plants, and hopefully pass your next life science test.